Okay, hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Sharli'e, and welcome to my workshop. And my workshop is going to be on how to manage conflict on sports teams. My objectives for today is identify the main causes of conflict on a sports team, examine how having conflict issues affects the team performance, develop skills to resolve conflict, and improve communication skills on the team. Now, I came up with a pre-assessment to get you guys' opinions on conflict before we even start, so I'm going to pass those out. And I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to answer these questions, and then we'll be able to come back to each other and then have a conversation on the information you guys came up with. Like I said, there will be a 5-minute timer, so you guys can start.
Sorry.
Are you okay?
I just choked on my water.
We have 2 more minutes to answer the question. have 30 more seconds before we go over the pre-assessment. Okay, that was 5 minutes. Okay, the first question on the pre-assessment is, when you hear the word conflict, what do you think about? Who wants to answer that first?
I think about problems and something bad when I hear the word conflict.
Why do you think something bad when you hear the word conflict?
I don't know, that's what just comes to my mind. Like, when I hear conflict, I hear like problems and I don't like dealing with it.
Okay. The second question is, what types of conflict do you think happens on the sports team?
I would say someone being late, missing practice, not giving their all, like they have a bad attitude.
Okay.
I feel like that's the most common one.
Okay.
Sports teams.
Okay. The third question is, what are some ways that you could prevent conflict before it starts?
I think you can prevent conflict by thinking before you speak and assessing the situation before acting.
Okay. The fourth question is, how well do you feel like you handle conflict in your life?
I feel like I'm able to handle conflict pretty well because I try to prioritize communication and understanding between things. Unless it's like a personal conflict, like with something that has nothing to do with anybody else. It's just
Okay. The fifth question is, how do you think conflict usually starts?
I said I think conflict typically starts with misunderstandings and not being willing to talk about things or hear both sides.
Okay. I think those were some really great answers to those questions, but I would like to dive in more deep about what conflict is and how it affects the team. Definition of interpersonal conflict: a problematic situation with the following 4 unique characteristics. The conflicting parties are interdependent. They have the perception that they seek incompatible goals or outcomes, or they favor incompatible means to the same ends. The perceived incompatibility has the potential to adversely affect the relationship if not addressed. There is a sense of urgency about the need to resolve the difference. Why conflicts are looked at negatively. In a study, researchers asked people to describe past interpersonal conflicts and found that they overwhelmingly use negative terms to describe their conflicts, just like you kind of mentioned when you answered the question. Some people from the research said it's like being in a sinking ship with no lifeboat, like a checkbook that won't balance, like being in a rowboat in a hurricane. And from those examples, it kind of seems like it's scary and nobody really wants to deal with it. And that's probably why they avoid it at all costs. Define conflict and the different types of conflicts that happen on sports teams. Conflict is a disagreement between 2 people or even a group based on different opinions or goals. Different conflicts are conflict communication. It is a process of exchanging verbal or nonverbal messages in a conflict situation that starts with attendance, moves through steps, and ends with consequences. The second one is a win-lose conflict, where the gain or loss is significant to those involved. The problem occurs when they take their losses in competition as reflections of their personal competence. 3, competition conflict, which I think is one of the big ones. The parties are positioned against each other. Emphasis is placed on winning, and outcomes are framed as win-lose. The fourth one is harmful conflict climate. It consists of the threats of power abuse, competition, distress, and defensiveness. The fifth one is intangible conflict. It is a center on gut feeling like love, respect, and self-esteem, as well as other topics like power, cooperation, and other beneficial behaviors such as attention and caring. Some of these examples to get you guys to better understand what these conflicts are. A conflict communication example. Two players argue about a misplay. One blames the other, publicly escalating the conflict instead of calmly resolving it during a timeout. When lose conflict, a player loses a captain vote and feels personally attacked rather than accepting the team's decision. Competition conflict. Instead of encouraging each other, two athletes constantly try to outperform one another and practice creating tension rather than teamwork. Harmful conflict climate, for example, is a coach consistently favoring certain players, creating distrust and jealousy among others. Intangible climate is a player feels emotionally unsupported after making a mistake and losing the trust of the team. So I'm gonna ask you guys a question at the bottom, and I'm gonna give you guys a minute to answer. The question is, which one of these conflicts do you think is more common on sports teams and why? So I'm gonna give you guys a minute to be able to answer that. You guys can start.
Are we talking about it or?
Yeah, you guys gotta have a minute to
Start
think
thinking
about it,
about
yeah.
okay.
Okay, the minute is over. Do any of you guys wanna answer the question first?
I think the most common one on sports teams that I've seen is the competition conflict and like the outperforming one another in practice and like even in meets, like I feel like a lot of people butt heads by that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think all of these conflicts are like really big, but I think specifically for track, I think harmful conflict climate. Like I feel like certain time or like in the past, I feel like with my high school coaches and stuff, I know they like favored certain people and then it like made people like not like that person because of that.
I feel like harmful conflict climate is like really common because when I did gymnastics, like I just feel like my coach would favor like other athletes and would allow them to do other things and not let me or some of my teammates do it. So I feel like that one's really common.
I feel like conflict communication is also a big one. I mean, we don't really do like a team sport, but when you're thinking about the team aspect and say like on a relay, I can think of like multiple situations where things have gone left because one person thinks they're doing better than the other and one's not picking up the slack. But when you think about actual sports teams, like I feel like it's just the players that are playing the sport, not the coaches. So I feel like actual communication would be best suited for a sports team.
I think intangible conflict and communication are really common amongst like soccer specifically, because I think their players are gonna like come at them and be like, oh my gosh, you missed a pass or you missed a shot, and they're not gonna go and say, oh I'm sorry I said that. It's just gonna be in the heat of the moment, and I think it makes players feel unsupported if no one says anything like that's okay, like it's just one shot, or I think those definitely coincide with each other.
I agree. Why does conflict happen on sports teams? Usually it's because of jealousy, different personalities, different communication styles, lack of accountability, lack of leadership, and favoritism. I'm gonna ask another question. Can you tell me a time you saw conflict on a team and what caused it? I'm gonna give you guys another minute to think about this question, and you guys can start now. Okay, the minute is up. Do any of you guys want to answer the question?
I don't have a specific example, but I do feel like different personalities, like on teams, like they always clash or different communication styles. Cause like there's like usually not one person that comes from like the same place or area, or their parents may have a different way of dealing with things. So it like usually like the different personalities and like how they communicate is like how a lot of the times how conflict starts to happen on the team.
I think a lack of accountability. I've seen a lot of people not take accountability for mistakes that they make and just take it out on others because they're frustrated and then don't go back and like say anything about it. So just move on without apologizing or
Yeah.
even thinking to themselves why they acted out that way.
The time that I've seen conflict is there were two really strong girls on my team, and only one of them got picked to be captain when they were both like the upperclassmen. But the other girl, she really lacked accountability and lack of leadership because she was just never really trying to help others, and she was very selfish with trying to just benefit herself in a lot of times. So she took not being picked as captain very personally, which shows like her lack of accountability and lack of leadership. And she took it out on the other girl, which was just not fair. So
A time I saw conflict was like my high school soccer team. My junior year, one of the people on the team had got picked for captain, and then the seniors got mad or like and quit the team because they didn't get captain. And I think that like goes with or kind of favoritism because the coach like picked her over like the people that's been there like longer and like
The time I saw conflict on the team, it had to do with jealousy. Basically, my best friend, she plays volleyball at Green University, and she's a freshman. The coming game, she got a starting position over like the upperclassmen, and they would like talk about her like outwardly so she could hear it, just because like they weren't playing over her, and it just caused conflict and tension between the two.
Okay. Negative and positive impact on conflict. The negative is team chemistry becomes low. The teammates stop trusting each other. Productivity will drop. Small groups form, dividing the team and excluding certain members. Players may quit or disengage due to negative team atmosphere and unresolved tension. Some of the positives to conflict after having conversations about it is team growth. It would increase critical thinking to solve problems. They will have better communication skills, higher motivation, innovation, and improvement. The 6 steps for the conversation process that not many people know about, as for myself as well, because I used to like to avoid confrontation at all costs because I was told that it was so negative. These steps can be used to help you engage in the conversation without being scared of it. The first step is preparation. Identify your problems, needs, and issues. 2, arrange for a time and a place to meet and talk. 3, interpersonal confrontation. Talk to the other person about your problem. 4, consider your partner's point of view. Listen, empathize, and respond with understanding. 5, resolve the problem. Make a mutually satisfying agreement. 6, follow up on the solution. Set a time limit for reevaluation. For the question, I'm gonna ask you guys another question. Why do you think it's important to clearly identify your problem or needs before confronting someone? And how might skipping this step affect the outcome? I'm gonna give you guys another minute to think about this question, and you guys can start now. Okay, you guys can start now. Do anybody know the answer to this question?
I think it's important to clarify or clearly identify your problem, because if you just go into a conversation about a problem that you had without actually thinking about, okay, why am I upset at this, or why does this problem really matter to me, and why do I feel the need to resolve it, you're kind of just talking to someone to talk to someone, and not like, you're not looking for an outcome, you're just kind of looking to make it worse, or you're just looking to even sometimes make yourself confused. There's just no reason behind it.
I think it also helps you get to a solution faster. If you can present like what was wrong or what you need to happen in the future, it just helps get to a solution faster. And if you don't really have that clearly identified, then you can get to like just piecing it together in the conversation, which can, and like if you're emotional in that conversation, it can lead you to not getting the outcome that you originally were hoping for because you didn't really think about it before.
I feel like if you don't clearly identify the problem, like it won't get resolved, because like it's not clear like what the problem is, and it might like prolong the problem.
Okay. The STOC system is another system that we can use for dealing with conflict as well. Number one is stop. Taking the time out. When you realize a conflict exists, begin by saying, just stop. Like, before we have to have this conversation, just right now. Two, thinking. Think before you act. Think about cause and its possible outcomes. Three, listening. Listen before you say something. It's better to listen to understand than listen to respond. Four, communicating. Speak up about their concerns or interests without interfering with the other's rights or interests. I'm gonna ask you guys another question, but this time I'm probably gonna give you guys less time to answer. When you take time to think before responding, what kinds of things should you consider about yourself, the other person, and the situation? I'm gonna give you guys 30 seconds to think of an answer. Do any of you guys have an answer for the question?
I think you should think about if the situation is a big or a little problem, and like things like what you might be going through or the other person might be going through, and like set the problem off or whatever, like what might have caused that problem, like stuff that's within you or within them.
Personally, I know I'm a very emotional person, so if I were to go in having a conversation with somebody and I wanted to think before I would respond, I would like mentally prepare myself to like calm down and like consider everybody's point of view instead of my own.
I feel the same way, because I feel like some people like handle conflict in like different ways, and some people are more sensitive than others. So I feel like tone always matters when you're going about a situation or the conflict.
Okay, we're gonna move to the next slide. I wanna practice some scenarios and see if you guys can identify what the conflict may be and what the resolution would be. For an example, during a basketball game, Amari keeps shooting instead of passing the ball to another teammate who is open. What is the conflict?
She's a ball hog.
It's being selfish.
What do you guys think the resolution could be to that?
Probably talk to her about being like, hey, like you gotta pass the ball. And maybe you can even bring some fact behind it. Like, if you pass the ball, we're more likely to blah blah blah.
For the next example, it is during a relay race, Jaden doesn't give full effort, which causes his team to lose a race that they should have won. What is the conflict?
He's not giving his full effort. Like he's not doing his best for the team.
He's not trying.
Something about the team, not putting maximum.
Since that's him not putting maximum effort, how could you guys deal with that problem?
I think a conversation helps a lot, and honestly, if he doesn't respond well, then his spot should be switched until he realizes what he's doing wrong. Because sometimes people take advantage of their skill and that they are better than somebody else so that they deserve the spot, but I feel like it's really earned, not given when it comes to that.
Okay. I'm gonna ask another question. Do any of you have a story to tell that has some conflicts and how you resolved it?
Me and my mom always kind of have conflicts with each other. That's because we're really similar. And like the best way to solve it is honestly just getting out of the house and being more in public and just talking about stuff, because when you're in public you're more mindful of what you're saying, so you're automatically are like trying to resolve the problem. So that's how me and my mom solve it.
Me and my twin, we used to argue so much growing up. We used to share the same room, so I feel like we didn't have the like same personalities or like how we deal with stuff. So I feel like that's why we like clashed a lot. But what resolved it is like we didn't really resolve it till recently. But we just started talking more about it and like what the problem was, and now we like get along really well. It's like amazing.
Okay, so after giving all of that information, I want to give you guys a post assessment about the information that we have learned. And this is another one that I'm gonna give you guys 5 minutes to finish. So here you go. You guys can actually put the other one back in the pile because I'm gonna collect it.
Are we supposed to have a room on it?
It's fine if you guys don't. You guys can start.
Could you go back to the STLC slide?
You guys have 3 more minutes. you guys have one more minute. Okay, you guys can finish your last sentence. Okay, for the first question on the close assessment, how important is listening during conflict?
I think listening is really important because in order to see multiple perspectives in a conflict, to see all sides, you have to listen in order for that to happen.
The second question is, out of all 4 steps in the STOC system, which step do you want to get better at and why?
I want to get better at stopping and thinking because when I often have like conflicts, I don't think before I act and I just blare out whatever.
You're not alone because I deal with
That's exactly
The same
what I
issues. I deal with those same issues. The third question is conflict something that will go away?
I don't think so. It's a normal human response. It's human nature to get angry at things.
I think conflict is inevitable. So, the fourth question is, what is a negative effect that can happen on a team when conflict hasn't been resolved?
I think it creates distance and unmotivated athletes and bad mental health because a lot of times athletes pour their whole heart and energy and everything, and if there's a lot of conflict on a team that's not getting solved, it's really physically and mentally draining.
The fifth question is, how do you prepare for confrontation?
Stopping and taking the time to think about what the problem is, and
Yes, I think that does play a part. Dealing with conversation, just stopping and being able to take space and collect your own thoughts before having to deal with the conversation, because you never know what the other person is going through or what they're dealing with and why they're acting the way that they're acting. So, key takeaways: conflict is normal and inevitable. Like, it's just never gonna go away. Every team experiences it, but how you handle it determines whether it helps or hurts the group. Healthy communication is key. Listening to understand rather than to respond helps resolve issues faster and it builds trust within the group. Conflict doesn't have to be negative. We came in this workshop thinking that conflict was always negative. It does not always have to be negative. When managed well, it can lead to personal growth, stronger relationships, and better teamwork overall. Identify the real issue before reacting. I think that's one of the really big ones. Taking the time to stop and think prevents emotions from taking control. Use structured approaches like the 6-step confrontation process and the STO system to guide respectful, productive conversations. Respect and empathy matter. Understand your teammates' perspective. Understanding your teammates' perspective reduces tension and strengthens team unity. Accountability builds trust. Owning your role in a conflict encourages others to do the same and promotes fairness amongst the whole entire team, whether that be a big team, a smaller team, because certain teams have different sizes. A positive conflict climate boosts performance. Teams that address problems openly and communicate better, they overall just perform stronger and end up higher on the board, whether that be a track meet, a soccer game, whether it's a football game. Leadership plays a big role. Fair and consistent leadership prevents favoritism and encourages inclusion for the whole team. Following up after resolution, checking back ensures the solution is working and prevents future misunderstandings on the team. I say that to say that conversation is inevitable. We're always going to have to deal with this, But leaving my workshop today, I hope you guys can use the STO system and the 6-step confrontation process to learn how to deal with conflict instead of avoiding it. I really do appreciate you guys for all being here at my workshop. I hope you guys leave with a lot of new information that you guys initially didn't come in here with. Thank you guys. Have a good day.